You got pre-approved for a mortgage. You're ready to buy. And then your lender calls and says 3 words that stop everything. Your DTI is too high. And just like that, no house. But here's the thing. Most buyers have no idea what DTI actually means until it's too late. And a lot of them fix it the wrong way, which makes things worse. In the next 8 minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what debt-to-income ratio is, how lenders use it, what the magic numbers are, and most importantly, how you can fix yours if it's too high. Let's get into it. Debt-to-income ratio, or DTI, is one of the most important numbers in your entire mortgage application. And it's actually really simple once you understand it. Here's the formula. Take all of your monthly debt payments. That's credit cards, car loans, student loans, any personal loans. Add them all up. Then divide that number by your gross monthly income. That's your income before taxes. Multiply by 100 and you've got your DTI percentage. So if you bring home $6,000 a month before taxes, and your total monthly debt payments are $2,000, your DTI is 33%. 2,000 divided by 6,000 equals 0.33, or 33%. Simple, right? But here's where it gets important. Lenders actually look at 2 types of DTI. Most people only know about one. The first is called front-end DTI. This only counts your housing costs. Your future mortgage payment, property taxes, homeowner's insurance, and if applicable, HOA fees. Lenders want this to be below 28% of your gross income. The second is back-end DTI. This is the big one. This includes your housing costs plus every other monthly debt you have. Car payment, credit cards, student loans, personal loans, everything. This is the number most lenders focus on. For most conventional loans, they want your back-end DTI to be at 43% or lower. Some lenders will go up to 50% with strong compensating factors, like a high credit score or a large down payment, but 43% is the standard target. Now here's a quick breakdown of the DTI limits by loan type, because they're not all the same. Conventional loans. Most lenders want back-end DTI at 43% or below. With strong credit, 720 or higher, some will approve up to 50%. FHA loans. These are more flexible. FHA will go up to 43% back-end DTI as a standard, and with strong compensating factors, they'll approve up to 57%. This is why FHA is often the better path for buyers with higher debt. VA loans. VA doesn't have a hard DTI cap, but lenders generally want to see back-end DTI at or below 41%. VA loans also have a concept called residual income, meaning after all your bills, you need to have a certain amount left over each month. So even with a low DTI, you still need enough cash remaining. USDA loans. Similar to conventional. 41% is the target, though exceptions exist. The key takeaway: know which loan type you're applying for, because the rules are different. This is where a lot of buyers get confused. What actually counts toward your DTI? What does count? Car payments, minimum credit card payments, student loan payments, personal loan payments, child support or alimony, and of course, your new mortgage payment. What does not count? Utilities, phone bills, groceries, Netflix, insurance. None of that counts. Lenders don't include those expenses in DTI calculations. One important note on student loans. Even if your student loans are in deferment, meaning you're not making payments right now, most lenders still count an estimated payment toward your DTI. So don't assume zero. And here's a mistake I see all the time. People think closing a credit card will lower their DTI. But closing a card doesn't reduce your debt. It can actually hurt your credit score by reducing your available credit. Never close cards right before applying for a mortgage. Okay, so what if your DTI is too high? You've got 2 main levers to pull, and ideally you pull both. Lever 1, reduce your debt. Pay down credit card balances first, especially any card that's close to its limit. Even reducing a minimum payment by $50 a month moves the needle. If you have a car loan with only a few payments left, it may be worth paying it off entirely before applying. Lever 2. Increase your income. This sounds obvious, but there are ways to do it strategically. If you have a side income, like freelance work, a part-time job, or rental income, lenders can use that income if it's documented for at least 2 years on your tax returns. If you got a recent raise, make sure your lender has your updated pay stubs. And lever 3, this one surprises people. Look at a less expensive home. If you lower the purchase price, your monthly mortgage payment goes down, which lowers your front-end and back-end DTI at the same time. Sometimes it's not about eliminating debt. It's about buying at the right price point for where you are financially right now. The bottom line, DTI is fixable. It just takes a plan and some runway. So let's recap real quick. DTI is your total monthly debt divided by your gross monthly income. Lenders look at 2 versions: front end for housing costs, back end for everything. Most conventional loans want back end DTI at 43% or below. FHA gives you more flexibility. And if your DTI is too high, you can fix it by paying down debt, increasing income, or adjusting your purchase price. Knowing your DTI before you apply is one of the best things you can do to set yourself up for approval. Run the math now. Don't wait for your lender to surprise you. If this helped you out, hit subscribe. We put out a new video every week covering everything first-time homebuyers need to know in plain English, no jargon. I'll see you in the next one.